cool.
Hello, everybody! Welcome to Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash. I see a bunch of friends in chat. Thanks for tuning in. If you are new to Design Dash, though, welcome. We are a monthly game show, which you can imagine a bit like Great British Bake Off, Iron Chef, Project Runway, but make it D&D. So we give the lovely contestants, who we're going to introduce in a second down below, we give them 15 minutes to fulfill a D&D 5th edition design challenge, while my lovely host Matt and I put together a lovely rubric with chat that at the end of the day doesn't matter, because we are all winners as long as we're having fun or being traumatized by a 15-minute design challenge. I am Lysa Penrose. I am your friendly ethereal brand manager over at Dungeon Masters Guild, where you can get awesome adventures and D&D supplements written by folks like the lovely creators below. And today I have Matt with me. Matt, who are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I am the Director of Business Development for DM's Guild and Drive-Thru RPG and all of the various connected sites. That means I work with new publishers, media, and other things like that to bring all of these cool creations and games to the world.
Yeah. And let's go ahead and introduce our contestants today. First is the lovely Makenzie, who after each design dash, we go up on our Twitter page at DMs_guild and post a poll so you all can vote for your favorite design or designer to come back next time. And Makenzie is our reigning champion. Hey, Makenzie.
Hi, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. For folks who weren't here last time, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Makenzie, Makenzie Lane Day on Twitter. I'm an independent TTRPG content creator, so you might have seen my work over on D&D Beyond for the Critical Role Encounters of the Week, or over on MCDM for Kingdoms and Warfare. In terms of stuff on DM's Guild, I just released Numomancy for Valentine's Day last month, which is a wizard arcane tradition based around found family and bonds between you and your party members, because that means a lot to me, and I wanted to explore how I express love, especially with my family members that I found through D&D. And yeah, I'm back. Woo-hoo!
Ooh, so couldn't have been traumatized too badly. What did you learn from your time in the arena last month that you'd like to pass along as wisdom to TK and Leon?
Let TK win.
I feel like there's some sort of like underhanded...
That's right, Makenzie.
I know. It's let TK win. That's my advice. But actually, something that I found really helpful last time, was it's something I learned from standardized testing, which, surprise, surprise, actually helped with something. I set a timer for every 5 minutes, and I paced myself essentially. I was like, okay, I need up to Act 1 done, up to Act 2 outlined, up to Act 3 outlined by these certain time points. So that helped me. That helped me keep on track and make sure I got a full encounter out, bare-boned out before within the time span. But also
strategy.
Let TK win. Let TK win.
All right. We'll see.
Really...
I mean, oh yeah, we'll go ahead.
I was
Matt.
just saying that's really cool. I don't think we've had other dashers do time blocks like that, because a lot of them previously have not gotten to Act 3 because they spent most of their time at the beginning.
Very true. The dash is brutal, and 15 minutes flies by. That is some great wisdom. So our apparent, already declared winner, TK Johnson. TK, hi stranger, who are you?
It's me. It's TK. I'm writing those spooky stories. I put them on the internet. I updated my website because I'd rather do that than actual work. Yeah. Should hang out with me on Twitter, TK Joins the Fray, or look at my website, tkjrats.com. Please do that. I pay for that, so please read it.
So folks, go and read your stuff on your website or some of the encounters that you have designed. What of your style are you expecting folks to see from you today?
If there are encounters for combat or with monsters, they will have magical abilities or items.
Okay. All right, cool. Everyone look out for that.
Oh, so spooky.
A little swoopy. Last but certainly not least is Leon. Hi, Leon.
Hi, my name is Leon. I am in the New York City area. I work at an immersive theater company. Hello, Future Proof. I see some of them in the chat.
Oh.
I am also an independent writer and editor of DM's Guild content. You might have seen me on Uncaged Anthology, Volume 2, the Book of House with the Willy Boo, and most recently, yesterday, the Book of Seasons Anthology, Equinox's edition, came out, and I have an adventure in there that is about the Jersey Devil, who I grew up with.
Ooh, I'm a Jersey
That's
girl
awesome.
as well, so good choice of topic. That sounds awesome. So you're not only a seasoned DM's Guild professional, but although you've not been on Design Dash before, I've heard you've done a dash or two. What did you do to prepare for the show?
Yes, I have been known to dash, maybe even sprint on occasion. I have a Discord server with some of my IRL friends, and what we do once every 2 weeks is we more or less do this. We pick a prompt that I have this like really terrible link of like 365 prompts, and maybe about 20% of them are viable for D&D encounters. So we have to roll like 3 times to pick a good prompt, and then we sort of just talk about it online between all of us. And we had a really great attendance. We had 7 people on Tuesday because nobody has anything to do, considering we're all isolated inside of our homes. So it's been going real well.
That's amazing. I love that you all do your own private design dashes. And Matt, could you imagine if we had 7 people dashing? That would be madness.
Yeah, that would be a bit of chaos, but I think I would have to accidentally delete some.
We can only manage 3. So
Yeah.
props to you all for handling 7 people dashing at a time. Are there any memorable dashes that you've worked on or that you'd want to share that your friends worked on?
Actually, so one of my favorite ones we did a couple weeks ago, the prompt was silly sports. And it was so fun to see all of the different the takes on like different types of sports that people came up with. A lot of ball sports. I see Scooter Beast in the chat. He came up with this concept of Calvin Ball, which is a thing from, Calvin and Hobbes, but like he made it a D&D encounter, which was anytime your players try to change the world, you can change it in the same way right back at them, which was so much fun.
That sounds awesome.
I made a Dragon Ball joke. So it's like a ball sport that dragons play where you have to collect 7 of the balls in your goal. And then you get a wish, like a casting of wish to do that because,
That's cool.
That's so fun. So no pressure, TK, coming into this design dash fresh. Already declared the winner, so really the least amount of pressure on you.
I said I'm gonna let TK win. I had made no promises about Leon.
Oh,
Leon
fair enough.
Pressure for
Quite
later
a
tonight.
challenge then.
That's fair, but if it helps, Makenzie, Hannah already promised to ban everybody who cheers for Leon, so thank you, Hannah. I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that.
For those of you tuning in, especially if you tune in or you're not usually in the chat, you're just listening into the show, TK is actually typically the moderator for this show. We have Hannah Rose helping us out today, which is good, because otherwise it would be chaos. So if anyone...
Love Hannah.
Yeah. So we're about to announce this week's theme. Folks who are at home listening in the chat, remember to help us figure out a rubric for this theme, or maybe you want to do the dash on your own for 15 minutes. That's really fun too. I love that idea. Someone brought that up on Twitter, playing along. And I promise this will come back to the theme. But for those of you who are checking out dmsguild.com today, we have a brand new bundle. You can save 72% off of nature-themed adventures, player supplements, or player options, supplements, like a bunch of beasts and creatures, all inspired by nature, because today is International Earth Day, which brings me back to the theme. And this theme is... When the apple tree picks you. You all have 15 minutes to design an encounter based around the theme when the apple tree picks you. We're going to go ahead and start. It is 11:10 on my clock. So we're going to call this at 11:25. 11:25. Go forth and dash.
Good luck.
Yeah. So, Matt, what do you think of this theme? What would you do if you were dashing away right now?
I love this theme, and I'm going to have you talk a little bit more about the bundle in a minute, but first thing I would do is probably create a grove, like an apple orchard, that is part mundane, part magical, and have various creatures fighting over the best parts of the orchard.
Ooh.
And there's so much wild, weird magic that at least some of the trees have come alive.
Oh, I love that. So this theme is actually a little bit inspired by last week's D&D community. If folks watched that, we were doing, I keep forgetting the word, collaborative, there we go, collaborative world building, and we were taking inspiration from magic cards. We picked a different card and created a adorable, wholesome, yet slightly evil world. But one of the other cards, I was looking through them later, is an apple tree that's had a bunch of its apples picked and it's coming for revenge. Which I certainly think is one way to run with this theme, but I like that pick could also be choose, right? So like when an apple chooses you. And so I'm hoping that we see a few different interpretations.
Yeah, I think with mine, I would deliberately have different trees choose different party members. So now there's infighting in the group.
Ooh, that's awesome. That's super fun. I see that folks are already in chat throwing out some rubric ideas. The Willy Boo says, how much will Tom Nook charge you to live in your module? Thank you, everyone who's tuning in, who's either taking a break from playing Animal Crossing or multitasking and listening to this while they play Animal Crossing. Cater says, I wonder if TK's apples will have teeth. They did promise the spoopy, so there might be teeth. Yeah,
definitely. So can you tell us a little bit more about that bundle that you were...
Yeah, so it's International Earth Day, and so April, late April is typically when the US's Earth Day is, but DM's Guild has like a very much international community, so we wanted to do International Earth Day, and so the bundle has a bunch of like magic items for druids and rangers. Well, that started as my focus, but then I found this really cool subclass for artificers, even called the botanist. So that was very cool. There is a timber-related supplement, which already is hilarious, but that has a bunch of different player options in there. But then there's adventures as well, and beasts. There is a supplement of a bunch of deadly plants. There is a supplement of just beasts, especially beasts that can be companions for a Beastmaster Ranger.
I see a
wide variety. Yeah, I wanted to throw in a bunch of like animal races. So that's there's an owl one. You can be a moth, which is quite cool. I think I wouldn't normally think to play a moth, but you can do it. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a really fun bundle.
And how long is this going to be available?
I believe it's going until March 30th, which I think is the day we pull it. So like the morning of March 30th, you might be able to get it. But if you really want to get in there by March 29th, to be sure.
That's fantastic.
Oh, we have Greg hanging out. Hey, Greg. Thanks for tuning in. For those of you who've been missing Dragon Talk, Greg, I believe, is going to be back for Dragon Talk. It might be a Zoom call that you all get to tune into, but we're all making do with what we can, working remotely. Do you want to take a peek at some of these dashes?
Yeah, definitely.
I've had the screen up on Mackenzie's.
Wild Rose Mage says, spookiest apple and cutest apple.
Okay, I like that. Okay, I'm going to put spooky apple, cutest apple. Yeah, don't forget to throw out rubric ideas, everybody. Ooh, the Willy Boo said in chat that the moth race is super solid. Highly recommended. Thanks for letting us know you checked that. You've checked that out before. Sleepy Time Ton Berry says Evil Johnny Appleseed. Ooh, I don't know if that's part of another bit of conversation or if that's for the rubric, but I like it. The Willy Boo, lack of doctors, weight of apples. We could have most apples. Most apples. Lack of doctors. Writing down all these rubric ideas. All right, okay. I'm looking at Mackenzie's. Ooh, all right. So their summary. Ooh, they're pulling inspiration from historical culture, literature, the Golden Apple, and the Magician's Nephew, which is actually one of my favorite from that series of books by C.S. Lewis. Ooh, Pitt's adventurers into a dark forest to rid a curse from the grove. There's a whole concept there already. It sounds...
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It sounds like this could be a contender for Spookiest Apple.
Yeah.
The Willy Boo,
like
another rubric idea. How much does this adventure make Treebeard sweat? I love that. It needs to be legally distinct from Treebeard, I think. So, shrub mustache. Wow, I didn't even get a pity laugh from Matt, just in front of everybody. All right, I'm moving on to TK's design.
All right.
Let's see. When the apple tree picks you. Oh, so they have Wicker Man with a bunch of question marks. Migrant workers' rights. Getting some real world issues into this encounter. And it looks like they've taken Mackenzie's advice, perhaps, and they're already breaking this into arcs. I wonder how much of this is taking Mackenzie's advice and how much of this is TK's usual style of design, and we'll be interested to ask them about that.
Yeah, I'm super curious as to hear each person's approach after our initial discussion today.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to Leon. Okay. Leon's design looks like nothing has happened, but I suspect these are Willy-like shenanigans. Are you checking to see if there's anything secretly hidden?
You just scroll down.
Yeah. All right, cool. Starting on page 2. I like that everyone has customized their encounters with fonts this time. That's very fun.
That's a first, yeah.
Ooh, I love this. In chat, Status Kill says, how about a play on apple names? Granny Smith becomes an old hag.
I love it.
That is amazing. If someone does that, they definitely get points. Kayla, K and Cly in chat says fonts are very, very, very important.
I do think this is the first time we've had people really customize their sheets as they work. So I think that'll be a new trend going forward.
Oh, I'm reading Leon's background for their encounter, and it says that somebody picked an apple from an apple treant and ate one of the seeds, and now his tummy is upset.
That would probably happen to anyone.
That's a very fun premise. I mean, for everyone except for that character, I suppose.
Yeah.
I feel like... I'm trying to think what encounter I would do. The first thing that pops into my head is having, like, an apple tree seedling. A little baby apple treant. And it's... some sort of like social encounter with the apple treant, and it picks someone, and then you get like a little apple treant pet. Just because everything I do is related to pets. I love pets.
Have you had many treants in your games recently?
I actually don't think I've ever run a treant, but I have run other plant creatures, especially when I ran Tomb of Annihilation.
Sure.
I loved the variety of jungle life and plants that they had there. What about you?
I've my most recent game that just wrapped up, we had the last 4 treants in the world ask the characters to protect them as they. So it was an escort quest, and they didn't make it. So.
Oh no, Matt! You knew you were gonna break my heart. Why did you even bring that up?
You asked.
I did ask. I feel set up though.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh goodness, I'm reading more in chat. Let's see. Sleep Time Tunberry says Applejack the Lumberjack. I guess we're personifying more of these apples, not just Granny Smith. Wild Rosemaid says Pink Ladies at the Apple Gala. I love that. That's adorable. Reading the chat more. People are now just arguing about what's the best apple. Jack's Not Funny says Honeycrisp. Good choice.
I think we could have expected this argument.
Now that Apple Tree is picking you, you're not picking the apples. All right, so let's see what we have so far on our rubric. We have spookiest apple, cutest apple. I think we did spookiest, cutest last Design Dash as well. I feel like it's pretty solid.
Last time, I think it was big and small. Biggest and smallest. Okay. I think that was for the kobolds.
Yes. And let's see. Most apples
And
/ weight of apples.
Something apple name related.
Yeah, I really like that one too. Play on apple names. Play on apple names. Greg Tito says Gala apples are best. Wild Rose Mage says I'm a fan of Fuji apples. Oh my goodness. See Nireland as an idea for the rubric, which is most words spoken by apples. So are you saying specifically apples, or would the apple tree count?
I guess we'll have to see what somebody comes up with and kind of make a judgment call at the time.
Okay, I'm going to call this personified apples.
Good one, yeah.
Let's see. Bunkerman91 says, a treant boy band named Golden Delicious. I love this apple world that we are now living on, this alternate universe. I want to live in this apple alternate universe. Nikea XY says how much someone would pay to use the apple as a sabotage on Cutthroat Kitchen, which I hadn't considered. I guess that Design Dash is similar to a bunch of those styles of game shows, but Cutthroat Kitchen has ways you can like throw a wrench into your players' plans. I feel like one day we should do a special edition of Design Dash where there's some sort of different element like that. I don't know what it would be in chat. If you have ideas, definitely throw them our way. But I think that would be very fun.
Yeah, maybe each participant could deny someone else one thing. Like, you're not allowed to use treants, and I'm not allowed to use dragons, or something like that.
Okay, that would be really interesting. The apple tree picks you, but you're not allowed to use treants. I love that idea. That's fun.
Some sort of restrictive, like you have to work around a certain block.
Yeah, I've been chatting with Bart Carroll about potentially doing a Design Dash for an episode of Dragon Plus.
Awesome.
Hopefully with some of the designers in the office when we're allowed back in the office. I feel like that would be an excellent time to do a Cutthroat Kitchen element because they are next level. All right. Sure. It is 11:25. I am going to give them a few more seconds as I read these more recent messages in chat, just in case we started a few seconds after the minute. let's see. Pick and ban face. Wild Rose Mage says. Nilly Line says, oddest comparison of apples to something else. Play on the idiom apples to oranges. I love that. I'm going to kind of play that into like play on apple related things. But I think I'm going to go pop into the Zoom chat right now. And I'm going to call time. All right. Mackenzie's giving us the thumbs up. Can't tell if Leon and TK are still designing. So I think I am going to hop into their designs and highlight them. Bam. All right.
I'm good.
Okay. TK, are you all set as well? You look like you have a Christmas design now. Crimbus. Ooh, Kayla has posted in chat, apples to flumps. Flumps to apples. Oh, TK, we can't hear you.
Now I can pull the chat back up.
Oh, all right. Oh, yeah, the chat often throws out ideas, so I suppose that's a good idea to minimize chat so they don't get in your head. All right, so chat has helped us come up with a rubric for these encounters, and we are going to start with Mackenzie, but I'll let y'all know what the rubric is. So if you feel like we haven't noticed that you've checked one of those boxes, you can let us know. But our rubric is spookiest apple, cutest apple, most apples / weight of apples. So if there's like a really giant apple, we can count that as more than one apple. Play on apple names or phrases. And the last one is personified apples. And we're going to kind of make the call case by case whether an apple tree counts as a personified apple or not. All right. So let us start with our reigning champion, Mackenzie. Walk us through your apple encounter.
So I think when I heard the prompt, the first thing that kind of popped into my head was this image of like this kind of gnarled shadow tree with these bright golden apples, and I just kind of ran with it. So the pending title is "An Apple a Day Keeps the Shadow Away," and I drew a little bit from the idea of the golden apple, and then especially the idea from the Magician's Nephew at the very end, where there is that magical apple tree that they use the plant to grow the wood for the wardrobe, but I like the idea of having a magical tree in a grove that has these very forbidden fruits. So I started out with the idea that maybe there is a pocket dimension somewhere where there is this forest that has all these this grove of very magical fruits. And so on the material plane, the adventuring party awakes to find an apple on their doorstep or wherever they're staying, and it has a note that just says, "Eat me," a la Alice in Wonderland. Mm-hmm. Basically, the apple itself is a plane shift spell that transports the adventurers into this pocket grove dimension. And I decided to name the pocket grove dimension Lost Track of Time. I don't know why. I have something else that has something similar, so I think I just desperately grabbed it and pulled it out. But I still like the idea of playing around with time and nature, and again, playing with the idea of like an apple a day and using like that metric of time.
I love that. I'm going to pause you here for one moment to ask chat a question. Chat, I'm going to need you to decide for us whether an apple with the words "eat me" on it counts as words spoken by an apple based on our rubric. Mackenzie, please continue.
Okay, sorry. So this is kind of the grove, and again, playing off the idea of like an apple a day and playing with time. They meet the tree that I mentioned at the beginning, who basically says, "Hey, something's poisoning us. Can you go figure it out?" I kind of went back in with apple names, and I settled on Gala because I was like, that's royal and nice.
Nice.
And then I figured a good reward for the adventure would be the golden apples. I was thinking they could be either spell scrolls or wish apples, depending on the adventure level, but that would be something to go back on when balancing. And then journeying through the forest itself is random roll tables, my favorite. So encounter roll tables. And so I played a little bit with like the Alice in Wonderland from earlier and the idea of time. So the idea that as you're wandering through, time only moves when you move. So you have to you can pick like a clock fruit from one of the trees and try and use that as a compass instead of like trying to better navigate, which gives you like advantage on roll counters. And then I was like, apple puns, apple puns, apple puns. So there were crab apples. So I was like fruit mimics, fruit spider swarms, and then I keep my headphones in because I like listening to music, and I heard someone mention pink ladies, and I was like, spiders named pink ladies. There's Black Widow spiders. So then I was like, Black Widow spiders, but worse and fruit themed. And then I wanted to go back to like the clockworky sort of theming of the area. So I was like hammerheads because I remembered something like that from Alice in Wonderland. And then some other things like a mist that makes you lose your way, poison gas, that's sour. I was thinking of sour apples. I think, nope, the saying sour grapes. Never mind, but you know.
There
Same
are
principle.
There's sour apples.
There are apples that are sour, so yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite
Speaking
ones.
of which, the hag in Act 3 was named Granny Smith.
Oh.
I did.
Nice.
As I was writing it, I heard it, and I was like, So I like the idea that there is in this pocket dimension, there's like this well that's kind of overflowing with shadow, like all these like dark roots kind of like overflowing it, and there is it looks like a hag, but it's actually like a corrupted like Shadowfell dryad. So I would have to make a stat block for that, and like basically replacing a lot of the growth spells for the dryad with like death spells, like Circle of Death or like Blight and all those things. And then this would be the final encounter. You defeat the dryad and seal the well. The curse disappears, and then as a conclusion, you get one of the golden apples as a reward.
That's awesome. I love how you put in little details like an apple compass or this like twisted Shadowfell dryad, which add so much visually. It's very, very evocative.
So how did this one differ from the last time you were here?
I felt a lot calmer this time around.
All right.
I think the first time I was like, this time I was still, but quieter. So, I think, yeah, I didn't rush through the last half like I did with the first one, I think. And I did have time to actually go back and like change a couple things. So I added in a couple more apple names and apple puns. This is definitely tonally very different.
Yeah.
There's no kobolds or misspelled spells in this one. It's a little more serious.
Yes, but still like some fun things in there, especially like things that the players might not realize, like where you have like the subhead of pink ladies and those are Black Widows. But that are fun for the dungeon master at the very least while they're reading through the adventure, which I always appreciate, and also as a designer like to throw in there. So it's fun to prep. Is there anything that you wish you could have had a little bit more time to work on?
I would have loved to work a little bit more on, I think, figuring out different ways for the ending to go, or more different solutions to possibly like removing the curse. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a clear idea of what kind of level adventure I wanted to go into this, so I didn't really have time to like break out into various different solutions. But I think that was my biggest thing, and I blanked on literally all my apple names the minute we got in here, so I was like, I need more apples. Shoot, I got nothing, so that would be the other thing.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone in chat is keeping track, but I counted at least 5 plays on apple names and phrases. I have 5 little checks here. And then I think chat was wondering who wrote the sign that was on the apple. The eat me.
I think that was Gala. Gala is a dryad, so she does have like hands and literacy.
Wait, do you have any plans, or is it kind of like up to the DM if the players are like, no way in heck I'm eating this apple?
I wanted to do a little bit more. I was kind of playing on the idea that the minute someone goes, don't eat it, everyone will be like, but I want to eat it. And so, I wanted to do a little bit more detail about like how to detect or like inspect the apple from the beginning, but then I was like, I can't spend too much time working on the intricacies of how that'll work, and just I need to get to the other parts of the adventure.
Fair enough.
And I feel like, honest, there will be one player who will eat anything.
That's the thing. It's like as soon as
Very
one person
true.
takes a bite and you're transported somewhere else, they're like, "Oh well, shoot," and then they all kind of go afterwards. So then it's a chain of events.
Yeah.
As soon as one takes the bite, then it's like, shoot.
There's always one who will be like, I don't care what it is, I'm eating it.
Yeah. Or you can
True.
put,
Yeah.
or foolproof, you can put in a second apple that says, "Don't eat me." And someone for sure is going to eat that apple.
It'd be so cool if there was a golden apple and then a black, like a dark Shadowfell apple, and one says "eat me" and one says "don't," and depending on which one you eat, you end up on different sides of the grove.
Ooh.
So I
One
did
with
see-
Granny Smith and the other with
Yeah, you had
Gala.
you had the 2 different dryads, so there's the different entry points.
I wonder if, like, you had a chance to flesh out Granny Smith a little more, if she could be potentially sympathetic, depending on how someone views her personality and her cause. So you could potentially have the party kind of going head to head or apples to apples. I get a point. I get a point.
That was well done.
I didn't mean that. That's not why I went into that, but it still happened.
Worked out.
Goodbye forever, TK.
Leave. I just like turn off my camera and just walk out.
But then you don't
Like
win.
this is it. This is the end.
All right. I'm gonna also say I feel like you are a contender for spookiest apple. I didn't ask what we're rating. Our scale apples like 1 to 5 apples.
Pips.
Pips.
Ooh, pips.
I don't know, I kind of want to give chat a second to catch up to tell us what our rating system should be. But whatever it's 1 to 5 of, how spooky of spooky apples would you say, Matt? It's tough being the first person because we don't have something else to compare against.
I'm not sure the apples are the spookiest part of this encounter, but because
True.
the black widow spiders and whatnot, I think kind of have the spookiest element.
Okay. We have suggestions for rating on a scale of Shia LaBeoufs,
Yes.
rating on a scale of doctors. Some people are putting apple emojis in the chat. I'm not sure if that is just a celebration of the theme, or if that's a suggestion. Rate in oranges. You got it. I would still give this because I think they're like fruit themed spiders, so they might be like apple spiders.
Well, sure.
But and again, it's like tough going first because you're right. There are a lot of non-spooky apples. I think I would give this 4 out of 5 oranges for spooky because apple spiders is pretty scary. Okay. Thank you very much, Makenzie, for sharing that adventure with us, that very evocative and visual adventure. TK, you are up next. Oh, let me unread your...
Please.
It's very
Ugh,
scary
a
to look
blessing.
at.
Thank you.
All right. Talk us through your adventure.
So I think I misheard the prompt and heard when the apple tree picks you.
No, that is what the prompt
good.
was.
Thank goodness. And so I was more forgot what I was saying. I was more inspired by like the stories that you tend to find in especially Greek mythology and a lot of Mediterranean mythology where somebody falls in love with a dryad and the dryad is not interested. Mm-hmm. But in this case, the dryad was interested and the human was not.
Okay.
So we have a case here where it's a lot like the Granny Smith type character from Mackenzie's adventure, because I was like, wow, this sounds great. Let me just type it. Thank you. I'd love to steal this from you. Pretend that I wrote it myself. Basically, this dryad cannot accept rejection because who can in this world, these trying times? And decides to blight the orchard that they're in charge of. So it'll start in the spring where everything's supposed to be in full bloom. Players would notice that they are in a fruit orchard that is not blooming, and eventually be approached by a priestess of Chantea. It's a farming area, and she would ask that they investigate the disappearance of orchard workers at the local Bright Bloom or Blight Blossom apple orchard. In Act 2, they would actually get to the orchard, speak to the orchard keeper, discover that there's a dispute between one of the migrant workers and the dryad that typically keeps blight away from the trees and stuff. The assistant was not interested in a romance and needs to move on to better job opportunities, and the dryad has to stay with the orchard and can't handle rejection. So the dryad blights the trees. So there are a few different dangers that the adventurers would come across, which are the blossoms that do fall from the blighted trees will put you to sleep. So you have to make a successful DC 13 Constitution saving throw, because I'm writing this for like a lower tier 2 party, higher tier 1, lower tier 2. So all of the DCs are like 10 to 15. A successful DC 14 Nature or Arcana will identify the magical properties of the blossoms, and at least in the first act, before even getting to the dryad, they would be attacked by 1d6 treants that hurl apples that do 2d4 bludgeoning damage. And then these apples, upon contact, if they are destroyed, will explode into burst clouds. So if you fail a DC 14 dexterity saving throw, you take 2d10 piercing damage, but half as much on a successful saving throw. If you eat any of the apples that they throw at you, I don't know why you would, but if you did, your system will shut down, effectively poisoning you, and you begin to transform into what's known as a Blight Blossom, which is a type, it'll be similar to a yellow musk zombie. Instead of the spores that erupt when it dies, they also, when they die, they explode into the seed clouds. They are not undead, and they don't need to be killed to be subdued, which is important because if you manage to save missing villagers, you will be rewarded with more gold for it at the end of the adventure. If you don't, you don't get punished for it, but if you like gold, you like gold. And tier 2 is kind of that sweet spot where you do want to get gold because you're not as likely to find a lot of magical items. Now in Act 3, when you do meet the Hayama Dryad, you can fight her, or you can persuade her to give up on the romance. If you take the assistant with you, you can convince them to marry the dryad, or you can assist his escape out of town, in which case like the treants would be chasing you. If provoked, or if you don't manage to persuade the dryad, then she'd summon 3d6 blighted treants and 2d8 blight blossom zombies, and those would be like a good solid fight, like a boss fight for them. So in conclusion, like if you do manage to subdue her and save people, you'll get 25 gold pieces for every townsperson you save, 75 if the assistant is safe, 100 if this dryad is subdued, and 150 if she's subdued but without killing her, so that the orchard can continue to make a new harvest and prevent a food shortage.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's what I got.
That's great.
I feel what is really distinct about your Dash encounter is that in addition to throwing down some really fun ideas, and I think it was Wild Rose Mage who noticed in chat that you went from Bright Blossom to Blight Blossom. So I'm going to give you a play on apple names, your own apple names.
Thank you.
But Bunkerman91 in chat calls out that you're very detailed with the mechanics as well, which is nice because there are some DMs who can like totally wing it with DCs and skill challenges and all of that, but you've like carefully built encounters within these 15 minutes and kind of spelled some stuff out for folks as well, which in like a written encounter that you're publishing and not just creating for yourself is so important to have that polish. So at the beginning, when you were introducing yourself, I had asked what of your style we could expect to see. So can you answer that question again, but now? So like what of this is typical of your design style? What was totally different because it's Dash?
Because in a lot of like more Western dryad stories, they're typically like a victim or they're just naturally good inclined. I wanted to go with a non-European type of dryad, which are typically depicted as very like jealous, vengeful, and violent. And they will fuck over an entire or screw over an entire village because somebody dumped them. And they'll absolutely do that. So there's like a very oh, I thought dryads were the good guys. You're not actually corrupted. You're just a jerk. Like type of thing where somebody is very much like, you know what, I have very human desires and I'm going to twist them and use my power that I have to get this base petty thing that I want. And that's typically a big thing in like stories I write where it's like, oh, you did all this and you just wanted the insurance money. Okay. It's very like Scooby-Doo-esque where it's like, wow, you really traumatized and tortured these people and you just wanted to like drink a margarita by the pool by yourself. I mean, okay, buy a different house, but it's also like the treants using a weapon on top of being treants, which are incredibly dangerous by themselves, using a weapon that can explode, that has like multiple damage that it can do. It's always fun to be a DM and be like, okay, you're gonna take this bludgeoning damage. Oh man, it hit you really hard. It also explodes, so I need you to make me a dexterity saving throw. Especially when you're using, I like bigger parties and adventures. I like 6-person parties, 4 to 6-person parties. And let's be honest, action economy during fights, even at tier 2, that's important. So if you have one treant, you need them to do as much damage as possible in their one turn because they are gonna get got. So that's like a big thing for me, which is like enemies that make little booty holes pucker.
I also like that there's multiple ways to resolve the challenge. I'm a big fan of putting multiple different options and then letting the players mix and match. You could end up officiating a wedding or taking someone out of town, and there's a great continuing hooks here. Like this story could continue on past this encounter, which is really cool to see.
I do all my best writing 15 minutes before deadline, so
so you have 2 players who are on this show, myself and Makenzie, and the Willy Boo says that this has been a sting for us to learn your secrets.
That's okay.
I promise it wasn't. Please don't punish us.
It's too late.
Oh no. Matt, on a scale of 1 to 5 oranges, how spooky would you rate these apples?
This particular one isn't as spooky as the previous one, but I think it's much more challenging. Yeah. So it's hard for me to rate it real high on spooky, but I think this would be a lot more challenging for the players to solve and get more reward at the end.
Yeah, I say I would rate it because people are like falling asleep and there's like shriveled trees. I would give it a baseline of 2 oranges, but the second someone eats an apple and like starts turning into a plant zombie from the inside out, that gets much more oranges if that happens in someone's playthrough.
Players will eat anything.
Yep. That's the moral of this Design Dash. Thank you, TK, very much for sharing your encounter with us. I want to make sure we have time to go through Leon's design as well, so we're going to move along. I'm going to highlight everything and unread it. And then we're gonna scroll down. Leon, walk us through.
Is it okay if I start with a disclaimer?
Absolutely.
I'm not sorry.
Oh no!
Disclaimer. I was going to apologize and then I realized, no, I'm not. My first thought from this prompt was thinking back to when I was very little and I ate fruit which I still do, but marginally less than I did as a child. And I would like eat seeds of different fruit. And my great uncle would say, you know, a tree's going to grow in your stomach. And for like 30 seconds every time I would believe him. But it never happened. And the reason why it never happened was because the apple tree didn't pick me that time. But one day, this is the adventure background now, the cousin of a local wealthy family, he's visiting the family, but he doesn't really go here, so he doesn't know not to eat the fruit in the enchanted orchard. So he does it because he doesn't realize that the treant is a treant and not a regular apple tree, and he picks off the apple, and for whatever reason, nobody warned him. He ate the apple, and for the last couple of days, his stomach has been very, very upset. No healer, no cleric, no anyone who has any semblance of magic or natural information has been able to help this poor man. He's been bedridden for days. So it says the group, I meant the family who has a lot of money will call upon a powerful wizard, which is where the budget went, and a group of tier 1 local adventurers. That's you. So the plan is the wizard is going to cast a very, very powerful version of Reduce, which is where all the budget went. And then the rest of you will get to live out your wildest Osmosis Jones fantasies as the wizard casts Reduce on you, and you are sent into the body of this wealthy noble. I'm not sorry.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So the plan is to enter through the mouth, because that's where the apple seed went, to travel down the esophagus. I took life science in high school. I actually had to I did open a new tab and look at a digestive tract real quick. And then you land in the stomach, which is presumably where the problem is. But the wizard can only hold the spell for about an hour, which is not a real Reduce for all you DMs at home. So Act 1, the mouth. So as we know, saliva in the mouth helps to digest things. And it's safe to say that a very tiny party will fall under the things category. So the first thing you need to do is avoid or defeat some of the saliva particles that are in the mouth. So I wanted to use gelatinous cube statistics to represent saliva. You can get caught in it, you can be digested by it. Yes, gelatinous cubes are part of a healthy digestive tract. The point, because this is a very level 1 or 2 adventure, is my thinking. The point is to escape, not necessarily defeat the CR2 gelatinous cubes. This whole thing for me is less about combat fighting and more about maybe being on the other end of a chase sequence.
Mm-hmm. Love a good chase sequence.
Right? Yeah, it's my favorite. When I get to whip that out at the table, I get so excited. But sooner or later, you end up at the esophagus, which, if you're not careful, you could fall down the esophagus, which would probably be not a very good thing for you. You could take some fall damage from that. So, however the players decide to get down it, if they have rope, which I think I mentioned below, they might be able to scale it through rope or try to climb down. However, touching the side of it and agitating it too much might cause the cousin to react. He might try to cough you back up, which would be a strength saving throw. And if you get coughed back up, you got to go through the mouth again, which is just painful. If you agitate him too much, he might even drink some water, which would flush the party down. So how long can the party hold their breath for? Can they swim? Where are they going to end up? They lose control over themselves, over the whole operation if the cousin drinks water. But we know where the esophagus leads. The esophagus leads to the stomach. And a map maker could have a lot of fun drawing the little islands of partially digestive foods here. And I threw a callback to the fact that this guy did eat an apple, and it probably has not been digesting very well. Yes, I really want to sell it home that these guys are wealthy. Why do they have a treant in their orchard? That's messed up. Of course, they're going to have some gold leaf in his stomach to further illustrate the fact that these are rich a-holes. Um, and the reason why this is exciting to me from a map maker perspective is that you have to stay on the food islands, because if you try to swim through the digestive fluids of the stomach, that's acid damage, which you shouldn't take. There is a tiny baby apple treant seedling here. So I'm thinking like baby Groot, but a lot more scared. It's lost and afraid. Wouldn't you be if you were in someone's stomach? So the goal is to get to it by jumping across the islands, and some might be a little bit too far for just a standard horizontal jump, so you might need to make some acrobatics checks for that. But wait, a lot of the gross foodstuffs here have been reacting to the magic energy that is rooted inside of the stomach from the seedling. So you can use zombie statistics for food that has reanimated or maybe animated for the first time, that sort of pop out of the acid, add adventurers, and start to try to tip over the food islands or push the adventurers off the food islands. And the seedling is very afraid, so this could actually end up being a combat encounter where you can just deal with all the zombies and get to the seedling afterwards, or you can rush up and grab the seedling. So this is the moment where I realized where the digestive tract goes after this. I mean, there are a couple more steps, but also, and this, Lysa, you warned us, this was a PG-13 show, and I had just written myself into an unfavorable hole.
Literally.
Quite literally.
I unmuted myself for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I needed that. So most of my time actually went to trying to come up with a way to make sure that the players didn't have to go through a hole they didn't want to go through. So I hope the players used some rope so they could go down the esophagus, and then finally I remembered that the wizard who has the budget must have given them a Cape of the Mountebank, or multiple, I guess, because that only works for 2 people. So yeah, if you can cast Dimension Door, or if you have something that will allow you to cast Dimension Door, I guess you could just appear 30 feet away from the body. And not have to go through this terrible, awful thing. This is a cautionary tale about taking the first idea that comes into your head and running with it, which has, up until now, worked very, very well for me, until the moment that I have to follow through on this particular adventure. But the reward for you is if you succeed in bringing the seedling out before the hour is up and you have to get out of there. The seedling picks you to travel with, and is looking for a new place to sprout that isn't terrible and full of apple zombies. And you get a baby Groot to travel with you for a little bit while you pick a place to sprout a tree in.
I give this 5 out of 5 oranges for cute, and I feel a little pandered too, because during the 15 minutes I was telling Matt in the chat that I would put an apple treant seedling in mine because I love pets, and I just want a little cutie to follow me around. But I also just was very, the introduction to your module was very spooky. Like personally spooky. Someone in chat said it should get 6 out of 5 oranges for just freaking me out.
Yeah, the face you made.
What are your thoughts, Matt?
Oh, I absolutely love these kinds of time constraint adventures in weird locations.
Yeah.
Especially because the environment itself has such massive consequences. If you do too much damage, you could hurt the host, or like the drinking water causes extra challenges for the characters who are on that 1 hour time limit. Yeah. Because if they go past that hour, things go very badly.
Oh, yeah. I love that it's also like a really weird place to be, but also something that's familiar enough to people because it's our bodies, but also you see like Magic School Bus taking on this sort of idea and other things in pop culture where folks have done the shrink and go into someone's body. So it's fun getting to play out something that you've watched or maybe even imagined. For a bunch of times, but it is 12 and I want to make sure that we're able to toss over to Dragon Talk and not keep Greg waiting for too long. So Leon, thank you very much for sharing that wonderful fun romp with us. Let's go through our contestants and say goodbye, let people know who you are, how they can find you, all that jazz. Makenzie, we'll start with you.
Oh, hi. You can find me over at Makenzie Lane DA on Twitter. Most notably, I yell about a bunch of things, but most notably and most recently, I'm yelling about the fact that I will be on Tales from the Mist for the next 4 weeks. I don't want to die. That's it. Luxury supper later tonight.
Speaking of, TK.
It's me, it's TK, and if Makenzie wins, she'll be on Tales from the Mist for the next 1 week.
Leon.
That's it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah, TK, keep going.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. TK joins the fray. Watch my show, Tales from the Mist, on Fridays. Get spooked. Things are about to get very anime, so...
Ooh. Wait,
Berserk.
or am I... Do I like that, or do I not like that?
You love it. You love it. It's great.
Oh, okay. All right, sure.
Do you like... Wait, do you like Meriliths?
What?
You'll love it.
Leon?
Hi, I'm Leon. You can find me on Twitter at Barillion. That's where I am. Come say hi.
Yay. And Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MMM666, talking about RPGs all the time, D&D, and Pugmire and Scarred Lands a lot too.
Awesome. And I am Lysa Penrose, your brand manager for Dungeon Masters Guild, social media manager for D&D, your Storm Sorceress Changeling on Tales from the Mist, which will be on this very channel at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Remember that minutes after this show ends, I'm going to head over to our Twitter page at DMs_guild to put up a poll, and you can vote for one of these lovely contestants to come back next month and dash again. Who will we throw into the arena next time? I can't wait to find out. Don't forget to go over to dmsguild.com to check out that International Earth Day bundle. I believe there are some treants in there. So if you're in the mood for throwing some apple trees at folks, this is the bundle for you. Stay on the channel Dragon Talk. We're gonna try and stream some banter and interviews today. Good luck to Greg figuring that out from home. And thank you, contestants and chat and everyone, for tuning into Design Dash this month. We'll see you next time.